All right, so they gave you 30-day notice.
Yeah.
Now you know you're going to Iraq. What was boots on the ground when you first showed up there like?
Yeah, so we landed in Camp Buring, Kuwait, which was, I think a lot of people spent time there. And at that time, we still weren't flying into country. So the way that they would get all these support units and all that stuff up to Baghdad or whatever is whenever an infantry unit would rip into country, you would be their escort into country. So, you fly into Kuwait, and then you're going to drive with a convoy all the way up to Baghdad to deliver them, and then you're going to go to wherever you're going to get stationed to. So, spent, I don't know, I can't remember. It wasn't that long, a couple weeks doing some pre-deployment training in Kuwait. And then they get our vehicles and our gigantic convoy of support vehicles. And I'm like, all right, guys, take these dudes to Baghdad. And that's what we did, and crossed the border and drove all the way into Baghdad. So that was the first experience. And jumping back, I always tell the story because I think it's super humorous, especially if you know young lieutenants who are super optimistic about the world and they think it'll change everything. I was an RTO at the time. I don't know, I guess I had a good connection with the PL, and I was fairly competent on the radio. So I'm riding in his truck, and he's going to change the world big time. And we're seeing all these families on the side of the road, and people were asking for money or asking for water or whatever. He's like, I'm going to throw these next group of people, I'm going to throw a water bottle to them, that just to help them out, just to show them that America's here,
Yeah.
So all right,
that's gonna make the difference.
All right, dude. And for those who have been deployed and seen, the water bottles you get when you're overseas, they're not 12-ounce water bottles. They're 1.5 liters. They're big.
Yeah.
So he takes this thing out, and as we're driving down the road, he sees his family. He's like, all right, I'm going to throw this to them. He chucks this thing out the window, and it explodes at their feet. Just splashes water all over them. And he just looked back forward in silence, didn't say a word. And it was the funniest thing. It was America's here, bitches.
Yeah.
You're welcome for my service. Yeah. It was so funny.
It's fucking classic.
And he was successful. He was a good dude, and his heart was in the right place. But it was just so funny.
That's awesome.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah, great work.
I'm sure there's a metaphor there for us meddling around over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, country, here's our service.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Shove it down your throat. Fucking soak you with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. Anything on that deployment that stood out as super close calls? I mean, did you get into some hairy shit?
Yeah. I went most of my deployment fairly unscathed, which was wild. Guys left and right were getting ticked up near ambush all the time. We spent a lot of time in Adamia and freaking Sadr City. We were in the places where guys get freaking messed up. Our PDSS, our pre-deployment guys who went there to get us ready to deploy, 3 of those guys came back with freaking Purple Hearts.
Wow.
Our BC got, hit with an RPG on his first ride out, and freaking went home with a CIB and a Purple Heart 2 weeks into country. So it's but my platoon specifically, man, it's just it barely ever happened. And if it did, it was pop shots here and there. And we were patrolling almost every day until just about probably 2 months out from our deployment being over. And I remember specifically, so I was in the first truck. I was up on the 50, and we were on a 4-truck convoy. We were just doing patrols, and we would generally do them, I don't know, usually around 11 at night until about 6 in the morning, just driving around looking for a fight, really. Just patrolling the streets, keeping people from put IDs in, whatever. So I remember the sun had just come up. We're cruising down the street, and I'll always remember, the song from Journey, Carry On My Wayward Son, whatever. So, this is going to date myself as well, but we all had CD players, and I had my little speakers up in the turret, and I remember that song had come on, and it was the whole very beginning part, Carry On My Wayward Son, and then right as we got, right when the music is about to hit off, it was this whole ambush kicked off. So whenever I hear that song, as soon as the beat drops,
yeah,
that's when it was. It was I'm looking forward. Obviously, I'm the front gun, and I just started hearing boom, boom. So I turn around and look. First thing I see is an RPG skip off the road right in front of the Humvee behind me. And then I start seeing green tracers come in in a big way from and the buildings were real close together too. No kidding, near ambush. And then the other trucks are completely pinned down. Thankfully, my truck, we were just outside the ambush zone, so I was able to engage. But it was just I had the least amount of training you could possibly have, and having never had combat experience, like, I just think about how ineffective I was because you're just reacting. And, you know, in my brain, I was like, all right, the 50 needs to stay oriented towards the front. You know, that could be our most casually producing weapon. And if something comes from there, I want to do that. But I also want to engage because my other guys can't. So I turned around with my M4, started engaging, and like it just all felt like slow motion, like super weird, but not like in the zone slow motion. Like I was just blasting towards where the fire was coming from.
Could you see any of the guys that were shooting at you?
Yeah, there was one guy who I don't even know what he was doing or why, but like he like ran out on the road and like ran back. I can't even remember what he was doing, but like that was the only guy from that side of it I saw. And then on the other side, like all of a sudden I start seeing green tracers come down from a rooftop, coming down towards our convoy from the other side. And those are the first two guys in my life and career that I've aimed at, engaged, and like, you know, with an attempt to destroy. Like I am trying to kill people right now, which was super, super weird at that time. Again, like it's so hard to explain that everything felt slow. And all of a sudden I realized like, dude, I'm down, like I only have one magazine left. It just all happened fast. And it was like, as quickly as it started, it was just gone.
Yeah.
We're like, everyone was fine, minimal damage to the vehicles. Yeah, just super chaotic. And I think now looking back at it, after I've been in subsequent engages and thinking about my mindset and my clarity and my ability to actually do work, just goes to show the difference between like being trained and ready as opposed to just like being thrown into the mix and just how you react differently, you know, because I've never felt that way again. Like I've never felt like I wasn't in the zone. I never felt like everything was so chaotic that it was slow. Like any of my engagements in my career since then, I've never felt like that. But that like very first one was just so weird. It like almost feels like a dream sometimes.
Yeah, that's wild. Do you know if you guys engaged and got any of them?
No, like by the time we went back, like there was a lot of blood and a lot of ammo. Like I think they policed up their dead or wounded, whatever they were. You know, the guys that I engaged up on the roof, those guys dropped. I don't know if I killed them. I don't know if I wounded them. I don't know if I just scared the shit out of them. Like, I just know that I shot at them and the engagement from that side had stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, like,
wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine, you know, because I went in at 18 also, but, you know, just thinking of being put in that environment, because I went right into the SEAL team, so it was several years before I deployed. But, you know, kind of like to your point, you know, just putting kids, you know, with very, very little training into those types of environments is fucking dicey, you know.
Well, we had an ever-evolving ROE, rules of engagement, and there was one that we had for a short while, which was it's so incredible to even think that was a thing. But it was like the Death Blossom was legitimately like, if you get hit with an IED, everyone will shoot in any direction that could possibly hide somebody.
Yeah,
that didn't last very long because you can see why that wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna
circle ambush.
You're gonna make a lot more enemies than possible just by
wow.
like shooting at anything that moves after you get hit with an IED.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So was that the extent of that deployment for
like big contacts? It was. We had another IED strike on that trip as well. Thankfully, it wasn't close enough to kill anybody, just not to like kind of rock us. It was big boom, but just poor timing on the detonator on him for not hitting us. But that was really it. Like I said, occasional pop shots, things like that. But that was the biggest one. Yeah. Fairly unscathed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you come home from that. Was the subsequent deployment again to Iraq with regular infantry, or? No,
so that was my only conventional deployment. Yeah. So I got back and I had my ambitions. I was like, all right, well, I want to go SF. I've now determined that's what I want to do. But first I want to go to Ranger school. I want to do the whole thing. Like I wanted to be Airborne Ranger. Then I wanted to spend some time in our recon platoon. And then eventually, like SF for me was always eventually I want to go there. It wasn't ever the first thing I wanted to do. But I got moved to the recon platoon, which I really loved. Like it was, you know, really cool. It was all, you know, sniper stuff. And I had a date to go to Ranger school. And then the Army had different plans for me. They had started this thing called the Corporal Recruiting Program, where they wanted to get guys that were young that had already been to combat, and they wanted to get him back out into the recruiting force. So I got...
That's a good deal.
Yeah. It's not for like a young motivated dude who just wants to be a super soldier. Like, again, like when I say I was like the best little robot, I was like, I loved it. I loved being told what to do. Like, I loved being freaking like the best soldier. I loved being a rifleman, just straight up. Tell me where to go, tell me what to dig, tell me what to shoot. I was just like super enthralled by it. Like, but no, I got pulled into corporate recruiting, and they said, hey, that's great that you've got those plans, but recruiting takes precedence over everything, which it does. You know, even like SF recruiting, like if you have a packet to go to selection, but you're going to be a recruiter, like you're going to be a recruiter.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. I got pulled to go be a recruiter, and I spent 2 years in Colorado Springs trying to put people in the Army.
Man.
Yeah.
Was that fucking just miserable?
I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was terrible because it was funny because like now, like I work in sales, and sales is part of what I do, but like that was almost like, it was telemarketing.
Yeah.
And I already didn't want to be there. And everybody who worked there with me was like career recruiter who hadn't deployed.
Yeah.
So I already had this thing, like they were all a bunch of pogues, and like nobody knew anything about combat. And I was not a very good recruiter.
Yeah.
I put in bare minimum, and I only put people in that like I would have been happy to serve with.
Yeah. So your numbers were pretty low.
Real low. I did. So, you know, the quota, or I guess the standard is like 2 a month, which I got that exactly, you know, over my 2 years that I did that job. I had 24, actually it wouldn't be 2 months. Yeah, I guess I was behind on it. Yeah. I put like 24 people in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not super great.
Yeah.
But again, like I didn't put anybody in that I wouldn't have wanted to serve with.
Yeah. I think there should be more of that. So, all right, so you do that, and then where did you go from there?
So from there, I was like, well, I've already wasted more time than I want to, so I'm just going to go straight to SF at this point. So I went to selection from being a recruiter, got selected, and then when my recruiting time was done, thankfully the corporate recruiting program was only a 2-year gig. Normally recruiting's 3 years. So after those 2 years, I PCS straight to Bragg to start the Q course.
And what was that like, expectation versus reality?
I guess I didn't really know what to expect. You know, I still had the infantry mindset. You know, I was still a hard worker. I was still going to push myself. So, but it was one of the first times I'd really interacted with a lot of people outside of recruiting that weren't combat arms. Yeah. Just seeing a bunch of people from different places. And what's unique about Special Forces, especially with the 18X program, when they bring guys in right off the street, is you have people coming in with such unique backgrounds. Like there's guys with master's degrees, or there's guys that like, hey, I was a CEO for this company, or hey, I did like, it's a lot of really intriguing people, or hey, I've been a mechanic all my life, or I drove trucks, coming in to all do the same thing. Whereas in my world, it's like, yeah, everybody's an infantry guy, you know. A lot of guys are rangers, or, you know, ranger tabbed anyway. I was never in the battalions. But it's like, so to like work with people who had a bunch of different backgrounds, like it was awesome. Yeah. Before
you went, or early on, did you ever consult or talk with your dad about what to expect or anything like that?
You know, he was glad that I was doing it, but he gave me the same advice, which is like the same thing I tell everybody now too, which is why it makes sense why he does. It's just, hey, just don't quit.
Yeah.
You know, like you will learn the skills you need to learn, and you know, you can be developed and built into what you need to be as a team guy, but what we can't do is instill a no quit attitude into you. You have to bring that yourself.
Yeah.
You have to determine that. So, you know, now it's the same thing I tell people. We're like, hey man, I'm really thinking about doing this. I'm like, great man, just don't quit.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't quit, you're already like leaps and bounds above, you know, a lot of the guys who are going to get booted out, you know, and you can see that, you know, the difference between guys that quit and guys that don't. And that's what we need. We need guys that don't quit. So, that was really what he gave me. But now looking back, that's all I really give anybody else too.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, to me, I think that's for a reason or by design that most guys' advice to young, up-and-coming, fill-in-the-blank special operations candidates is that, you know, because to me there's a correlation between the type of guy that A, is wanted / desired, and B, that is the type of guy that's going to make it through that, isn't a guy that should need extensive advice on how to make it.
Yeah.
You know, because like if you're, I mean, like the recruiting for special warfare in the Navy anyway, like there's a percentage, like they've done, you know, multiple studies on it, and even kids that say, hey, I want to be a SEAL, like when they show up to the SEAL recruiters, the disparity between the ones who, when they show up, have already put themselves through the test, have already know what the standards are and know that they can meet them, because they, like the self-starters that show up and be like, hey, I've already done all this, I know what I need to do, versus everybody else. It's like 99% of the people, like if they haven't done those things before they're told to do them, they have no chance of making it.
Yeah, like if you showed up just having not prepared or not saying, hey, I know I'm going to carry a ruck, so I better start putting a ruck on a lot. You know, I know I'm going to land nav, so I better freaking get up on my land nav. Yeah. Like if you don't do that, like again, you've kind of already self-selected. But you know, how much advice can you really give a guy that's going like, hey, when you're land naving, make sure you do this, or even you know, in your sake, hey, make sure that, you know, when you're swimming, you're doing this. It's like no advice is really going to help except don't quit. Like
no, I agree. I mean, but to me, like you know, people all the time like, hey, I want to be a SEAL. What should I do? It's like, you're already not the right guy. You know, it's like, if you're asking me what you should do to prepare, you're already not the right fucking guy, you know?
You should listen 10 times as much as you speak.
Yeah. But I mean, with the amount of information that's out there now, it's like you have zero excuse to ask any fucking questions really about anything almost at this point. But
there's guys that are doing like guys who've gotten out and they're doing like, hey, join my program and I'll show you I'll help civilians train up so that when you go in your contract, you can do that. There's guys who do it for SF, and I'm sure there's guys who do it for SEALs too.
Yeah, there's a bunch. All right, so you go through a Q course. As you went through it and got into the unit, what was that like?
So I definitely had to break out of my like robot mentality. And again, having grown up in the infantry, so I was an E6 staff sergeant when I got to group. So I got there, and I wouldn't say it was more relaxed than I expected, but like still, you know, one of the things in the Army, and maybe in the Navy too, is like you show up as disciplined as you're supposed to, and then you let somebody else tell you to relax. You know, you don't want to show up sloppy and be like, dude, why aren't you at parade rest? Why aren't you whatever? You know, so
the SEAL teams are kind of the opposite. So I'm going to assume it's the most relaxed grooming standards until you tell me I'm fucked up.
And maybe it has morphed that way, or maybe the new generation is just like, hey man, I'm supposed to show up with my hands in my pockets and like I wear my freaking sunglasses all the time, and like I don't know, maybe that's the case, but that wasn't me. Again, like talk about how much I enjoyed being like the best at what I was told to be. So when I showed up and I was like, all right, hey, I want to be. I'm here to report. They're like, all right, great. You're going to go to a mountain team. You were in Colorado, so you should be a mountain guy. Have you ever climbed anything before? I was like, trees, maybe. I don't know. Like I'm a kid. I was a boy. I've climbed stuff. Like so, like all right. Well, you're from Colorado, and they're like, you're from Colorado, and there's mountains in Colorado, so you're going to be on a mountain team. I was like, that's cool. I didn't even know mountain teams existed. Most people don't, you know. So they tell me which team room to go to. They're like, all right, hey, go down to this team room down here. So I'm in uniform. I walk down the hall. Get to the door, like, all right, here we go. This is my introduction to my team, you know, my new family. I knock on the door 3 times. I announce my presence, you know. I'm expecting them to say enter. Like for some reason in my mind, it was supposed to be like that. They open the door, and I remember I even like kind of like stuttered when I said it too because I was so nervous. But I was like, I'm Staff Sergeant Ray. I'm reporting for duty. These dudes were like,
what the fuck did you just say?
Yeah, they looked at me like I was a fucking alien. They were all sitting on the couch, like watching TV or just bullshitting, just like non-training team room activity, you know. And it was funny as I remember the buddy of mine who I went through the Q course with, who had gotten there just a little bit before me. He was looking up at the couch at me like, oh my gosh, you just fucked up, dude. Like, who are you? I was like, I saw the look in his eye and I was like, oh no, that was the wrong team room.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So I got some bad intel. I went to the wrong team room and embarrassed myself. I was like, I'm supposed to go to the mountain team. They were like, it's on the other side of the hall, jackass. All right, thanks, guys. So like, shut the door, turn around, and do the exact same thing, you know? So this one was a little bit more relaxed. Guy opened the door, sent me up to the team sergeant and captain, so I introduced myself and all that stuff. And that was the beginning. And that's where it was like, all right, hey, you can relax a little bit in here, man. And, you know, I definitely got to the point now to where it's like, I shy away from like super strict discipline Army stuff, and I've completely been like, now that's my life. So
Deinstitutionalized.
I've deinstitutionalized. I know when to put it on when I have to.
Yeah.
Because in the end, like, you have to work with conventional guys, or you have to work, with Department of State or whatever. So you have to know when to like turn the cool guy off. But,
read the room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm now more comfortable as a cool guy. So
That's
it took a
awesome.
while.
Yeah.